My name is Logan Carter, and up until 8 months ago, I would have taken a bullet for the woman I married. Ironically, I was willing to die for her. Literally. Because when she ripped my heart out, I was 7,000 miles away in the middle of a war zone, thinking that back home, at least one thing in my life was safe. Boy, was I wrong. Let me take you back to how this all started. Before the rage, before the betrayal, before I became the ghost that haunted her every step. I'd been in the army for 12 years. Infantry. I've seen more deserts than I've seen birthday cakes. Combat deployments were my normal. And through it all, I had one anchor, my wife, Jessica. We met in college. She was the artsy, barefoot poetry major. I was the guy in uniform with mud still on his boots. Opposites attract, right? She made me feel calm in a way I didn't think I deserved. We got married fast. Too fast, probably. I deployed for the first time just 3 months after the wedding. It was hard, but she always said she was proud of me. The thing about distance is it doesn't create problems. It reveals them. My last deployment was supposed to be my final one. I was stationed in the Middle East, working logistics at a base that had more sand than oxygen. Jessica knew the routine. She knew how hard it was for me to stay connected, especially with bad signal. But she also knew where I kept all the passwords. We trusted each other completely, or at least, I trusted her. About 4 months into the deployment, I noticed her tone changing in emails. Shorter replies. Less affection. No more, I miss you. That was strange. Then came the silence. For 2 weeks, I didn't hear a single word from her. I chalked it up to life getting busy, work, stress, maybe her anxiety acting up. She always struggled with that. I even sent her flowers online, thinking maybe she needed a pick-me-up. What I got back wasn't a thank you. It was an email. A single line. Logan, I'm sorry. I've filed for divorce. Please don't come back. That was it. No explanation. No, we need to talk. Not even a damn punctuation mark. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I was about to have a stroke. I reread it 4 times. I thought it was a mistake. I thought maybe she'd been hacked. I forwarded the email to myself, just in case. The next morning, I logged into our joint bank account, something I hadn't done in weeks because I trusted her to manage our bills while I was away. Balance, 27 cents. Gone. Everything was gone. The savings. The emergency fund. The bonus I'd just gotten from re-upping for another 2 years. She cleaned us out. I opened our mortgage account. Paid off early. What? The house was paid off in one transaction. My stomach dropped. Jessica didn't just take the money. She used it. I called my buddy at the base. He's ex-NSA and helped me with more than one mess in the past. Let's just say he knows how to dig. In less than a day, I had the answer. Jessica hadn't just divorced me. She'd sold everything I had left and moved a guy into our house. A guy named Trent, who she used to call just a friend from her yoga class. A friend who, apparently, was now sleeping in my bed, using my grill, and driving my damn truck. I sat there in the tent, in 120 degrees heat, surrounded by men and women I was ready to die for, and realized I had nothing left waiting for me at home. So I wrote back. Just one word. Understood. No anger. No begging. No reply from her either. But what she didn't know was that the second I hit send, I started building my plan. You see, I may be a soldier, but I was trained to be strategic, calm, calculated. She thought distance made me powerless. She didn't know that the moment I lost everything, I became the most dangerous version of myself. And by the time she realized what I was doing, it was already too late. Jessica thought she'd won. She emptied our accounts, changed the locks, moved her boy toy into our home, and served divorce papers to a war zone like it was a breakup text. What she didn't know, couldn't have known, was that the house she tried to steal wasn't legally hers. Not completely. Because in her haste to cut me out of her life like a bad tattoo, she forgot one tiny, critical detail. She never took my name off the title. And I never gave her power of attorney. Let me explain. Our house was bought under a military program, VA loan, half the interest, 0 down. Jessica's credit sucked, so everything was under my name. Later, we added her as a co-owner because she begged me to. She wanted security. I agreed, thinking it was just paperwork. But when she paid off the house using the money from our joint account, she didn't realize she needed both our signatures to legally refinance or transfer the deed. She assumed if she covered the balance and submitted documents, she'd have sole ownership. She didn't know that the title company flagged it, that no transfer could be finalized without my in-person approval, notarized and submitted. And guess who the company emailed about the discrepancy? Me. Out there, 7,000 miles away, staring at the betrayal of a woman I had defended 100 times before. I didn't get mad. I didn't even respond. I just forwarded the email to my lawyer. Now, I'm not rich, but I had one thing, a favor owed. Right before I deployed, I helped a fellow soldier named Marcus whose life was falling apart. Divorce. Dead. He was ready to walk in front of a bus. I got him into therapy, vouched for him with our CO, even covered some of his rent when his wife kicked him out. Turns out Marcus had a cousin who worked at one of the most aggressive real estate firms in the state. All I had to do was make one call. She took it from there. Within 2 weeks, a notice was filed with the county registrar putting a hold on any title changes on the property due to pending ownership disputes. A formal claim of fraudulent asset seizure was sent to Jessica's email. And the best part? A quiet title lawsuit was filed in court. If you're not familiar, a quiet title is a way of legally removing someone's claim to a property if they can't prove they rightfully own it. The burden of proof? It's entirely on them. She was about to learn the hard way what happens when you forge signatures and move a stranger into a house that's not yours. Back home, my lawyer was playing chess while she was still playing beer pong with Trent. He sent a cease and desist demanding they vacate the home. She ignored it. She assumed I'd roll over. Or maybe she thought I was bluffing. But then she started getting calls. First from the title company, then from the sheriff's office, then from the court, all asking her why there was a stranger living in a home that had an unresolved ownership dispute attached to it, and why the co-owner wasn't present or aware of the transaction. Trent, the idiot that he is, posted photos of himself on Instagram holding a set of keys with the caption, "New crib, new life." I screenshotted every single one. Then I sent them to the attorney, along with Jessica's Instagram post from 2 weeks earlier where she bragged, "Sometimes you have to make space for better things." She was panicking now. I could feel it. She tried calling me. I didn't answer. She left voicemails, crying, angry, apologizing, bargaining. "Logan, we can fix this. You don't need to escalate. You don't understand. I didn't know it would affect you this much. Why are you doing this to me?" I saved every voicemail. Why? Because a lawyer's favorite dish is evidence served cold. Now, here's where it gets delicious. Jessica had forged my signature on multiple documents. Not just the bank withdrawals. Not just the refinancing attempt. She even submitted a fake power of attorney to my credit union trying to close an investment account I'd inherited from my grandfather. $18,000, locked in a CD. But the credit union flagged it immediately. The notary stamp didn't match any in the system. So they froze the account and flagged it for fraud. I now had a federal paper trail of her attempted financial abuse. And I wasn't done. My lawyer filed for exclusive use of the home due to fraudulent occupancy and spousal abandonment. She claimed I had abandoned her by being deployed seriously. We hit back with service records, email timelines, and proof that she moved another man into our home within 30 days of me leaving. The court didn't like that. Trent? He got served with an unlawful occupancy notice. The sheriff came to the house and told him he had 7 days to vacate or face criminal charges. Suddenly, Jessica was begging again. "Logan, please. I made a mistake." That's when I finally responded. "Understood. I'm just making space for better things." Same words she used. I knew it would eat her alive. Some people need to be screamed at to get the message. Others, you just let the system speak for you. When I got the email that Jessica and her new boy toy had trashed the place on their way out, I didn't freak out. I didn't yell. I didn't even reply. I let the footage speak. Because just before I left for deployment, my neighbor, an old Navy guy named Russ, offered to install security cameras on my property as a favor. Said it gave him something to do in retirement. I didn't think much of it at the time, but man, that old sailor became the ghostwriter of my revenge. The camera facing the driveway caught everything. Trent, shirtless, buzzed out of his mind, hurling my patio furniture over the fence, dragging my grill out to his truck, then flipping off the camera as he broke the front window with a landscaping stone. What's even dumber? He had the nerve to smile as he did it, like he was in a music video for Bad Decisions, Volume 3. I sent the video to the cops. The next day, a warrant was issued for Trent Michael Ellis for vandalism, theft, and trespassing on a disputed property. Jessica called me screaming. Not crying this time, screaming. "You set him up. You're ruining his life." I replied, calmly, just like I always do. "You moved him into my life. I'm just returning the favor." Now Trent was panicking. His job required a clean record. He worked in HVAC, licensed and bonded. A felony would take him out of the game. He begged Jessica to drop everything, but she couldn't, because it wasn't up to her. She didn't own the house. She had no legal standing anymore. She could only sit there, watching the life she tried to build on top of my ashes crumble underneath her. I heard, through my lawyer, that Trent dumped her 2 days later. Texted her something about not signing up for all this drama. Took off with his truck and left her with a broken window, a ruined kitchen floor, and $0 in her bank account. She'd burned every bridge she ever had and still hadn't hit bottom. Not yet. Meanwhile, I was finally rotated back home. Touching down on U.S. soil was bittersweet. I wasn't coming home to anyone waiting at the gate. No homemade sign. No teary-eyed wife. Just my duffel bag, my boots, and a cold draft of satisfaction in my chest. My lawyer met me at the airport, handed me a folder, and said, "Congratulations. You own 100% of your house." She's out. I asked how bad it had gotten. She filed a countersuit trying to sue you for emotional distress. The judge laughed. Perfect. I went straight to the house, not out of sentiment, but to see the damage. It was worse than expected. The kitchen had water damage. The guest bathroom looked like it had hosted a frat party. The master bedroom? Yeah, that one was left bare, except for a single pink bra hanging from the ceiling fan like a flag of disrespect. I laughed. Then I started cleaning. With my own hands. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to reset this place. This wasn't our home anymore. It was mine. Every wipe of the wall, every bag of trash, every window I replaced was another nail in the coffin of who she used to be to me. And then I got to the attic. That's where the universe decided to reward me. Tucked into a dusty box labeled as Maz Deco was a folder, thick, heavy, and definitely not festive. Inside were bank statements, insurance records, and a binder full of receipts and wire transfers. To Trent. Over $12,000 total. All pulled from our joint account after she'd filed for divorce. This was huge. Because under our state law, the moment divorce is filed and served, both parties are prohibited from spending joint assets without written consent or court approval. What she'd done wasn't just shady. It was illegal. My lawyer's eyes lit up when I dropped the folder on his desk. This is financial misconduct, he said. We can countersue. A week later, we filed a formal motion for financial restitution, requesting Jessica return the full $12,000 plus damages. Her response? She burst into tears in the courtroom, claimed she was in emotional distress, and said she'd already suffered enough. The judge didn't care. She was ordered to pay every penny back within 90 days, or have her wages garnished. Jessica was working part-time at a daycare now. She didn't have the money. But I wasn't done. Remember that account she tried to close, the one with the $18,000 inheritance? She thought it was frozen. It wasn't. I'd moved it, discreetly, to a separate trust under my mother's name while the investigation was happening. So when she tried to file for spousal support a month later, my financials showed I had just enough to pay the mortgage, but not a cent more. The judge denied her request. No spousal support. No payout. No assets. And no boyfriend. Jessica was left with nothing but her last name, which, I heard, she changed 2 weeks later. Guess Carter carried too much shame after all. 2 weeks after Jessica's court loss, she tried to rent an apartment. But the landlord called her job to verify income and accidentally dialed the daycare's corporate HR. That's when everything unraveled. Turns out Jessica never legally changed her last name after her first marriage. She was still married, to someone else. Yep, Jessica Carter never existed on paper. Her name was still Jessica Lane, married to some guy named Mitchell Lane from Pennsylvania. I dug deeper. She married Mitchell at 19. Divorced 4 years later, or so she claimed. Only she never filed. No annulment. No court record. Nothing. Which meant our marriage was never legal. 12 years. Gone. The anger? It didn't even hit me this time. I laughed. Because now, all her claims against me, asset division, spousal support, everything collapsed in one glorious technicality. I sent one email to her lawyer with the marriage license details. Silence. Then panic. Then withdrawal of all claims. She couldn't risk being exposed for fraudulently remarrying while still technically tied to another man. My lawyer's response? She just blew up her own life. Jessica stood at my doorstep, makeup smeared, hair a mess, holding that envelope like it was a peace treaty. I said nothing. Just stepped outside, shut the door behind me, and opened the letter. She flinched with every sentence I read aloud. Please forgive me. I made horrible mistakes. I didn't know how to cope while you were gone. Trent meant nothing. She went on about stress, loneliness, depression. Blamed her childhood. Blamed me. Blamed the army. But not once, did she take responsibility. I looked her dead in the eyes. Then I held the letter up and lit it with the Zippo I carried through 3 deployments. The flames curled the paper, blackening her words until they were ash at our feet. You're not sorry. You're scared, I said. She reached out like she was going to hug me. I stepped back. You already buried me once. You don't get to do it again. She broke, fell to her knees on the porch, sobbing. But I turned around and went inside. Didn't say a word. Didn't look back. Later that night, her sister messaged me on Facebook. Said Jessica moved into their basement and was talking about ending it all. I replied only once. She ended it when she chose Trent. I showed up at the hospital out of pure decency. Not love. Not guilt. Just closure. Jessica had taken a handful of pills. Her sister found her in the basement, barely breathing. The doctors said she'd be fine physically. When I walked in, she looked hollow, like all the lies had finally settled into her bones. You came, she whispered. I didn't do it for you, I said. I came to make sure you don't blame me in a suicide note. She flinched, but said nothing. That's when she handed me a document. A will. She had listed me as beneficiary of her life insurance, still under my name. The payout? $150,000. You were the only one who ever took care of me, she said quietly. I didn't even blink. You wrote me off with a one-line email and a guy in my house. You don't get to buy back my forgiveness. She turned her face away. Couldn't even hold my gaze. I left that will on the tray and walked out. And before I made it to the elevator, a nurse jogged after me. Mr. Carter, she just tried to call the police. Said you threatened her. My jaw clenched. She was already trying to flip the story. But what she didn't know. The hospital room had audio and video monitoring for psychiatric cases. She'd forgotten she wasn't in her fantasy world anymore. I didn't press charges right away. I wanted her to stew. Let her know the walls weren't just closing in, they were closing because of her. The hospital confirmed it. Jessica called 911 from her bed, claiming I threatened her. But the camera caught everything. My words. My tone. The distance I kept. Crystal clear proof she lied. When the police showed up, she played the victim card again, tears, trembling hands, the works. Didn't matter. They reviewed the footage. And when the officer walked back into her room, she looked hopeful, until he said, Jessica Lane, you are under arrest for filing a false report. Click. Handcuffs. That was the moment everything flipped. The years she spent manipulating, crying her way out of blame, gone in 2 cold steel snaps. I watched her get wheeled out of the hospital in cuffs, screaming at the nurses, at the cops, at me. You ruined me. I didn't respond. She ruined herself. Later that day, my lawyer filed a restraining order. Jessica wasn't allowed within 500 feet of me or the house. If she violated it, jail. And then came the final blow. Remember Trent? The ex-boyfriend turned felon? Well, he came back. With a lawyer. Apparently, Jessica had borrowed money from him. Promised to invest it, $6,500 total. But she'd spend it all on spa days, wine deliveries, and a down payment for a nose job consultation. He was suing her for fraud. I never planned to speak to Jessica again. But I needed closure, not for her, for me. So I agreed to one meeting. Supervised. Neutral location. Her lawyer present. Mine too. She looked rough. Thin, tired, twitchy. But still managed that fake smile she used to wear when she was cornered. I want to make peace, she said. I stayed silent. She rambled about therapy. Regret. Childhood trauma. Claimed Trent manipulated her. Claimed I neglected her emotionally. Then came the punchline. I think we should sell the house and split the money. It's only fair. I looked at my lawyer, who was already smirking. He slid a folder across the table. Inside? Her forged documents. Her fraudulent loan applications. Video stills of Trent trashing my house. Her own confession from a psychiatric evaluation. She froze. I'm giving you one chance, I said. Admit everything. Publicly. In writing. No excuses. She shook her head. I can't. It'll ruin me. It already has. Meeting over. I stood up and walked out. 3 days later, I published my side of the story online. No names. No slander. Just facts. Screenshots. Court documents. Timeline. It went viral. Jessica's face wasn't in the post, but people recognized the story. And her employer did too. After the blog post went viral, Jessica lost her job. Not because I named her, but because the parents recognized her. The single mom at work, always on her phone. The one who bragged about dating a soldier. The one who used to show off her yoga instructor boyfriend. She was let go, pending investigation. Translation, don't come back. Within days, she was publicly exposed. Not just online. In life. Her landlord terminated the lease application. Her sister kicked her out after finding out she lied about only needing a couch for a week. She was jobless, homeless, and still on the hook for $12,000 in court-ordered restitution. That's when she called my mom. And I wish I was kidding. She asked my mother if I'd be willing to take her back. Said she learned her lesson. My mom, bless her, laughed and said, "Sweetheart, Logan didn't survive a war zone to come home and be your casualty." Click. But Jessica still had one move left. She tried to file for bankruptcy to avoid paying me back. Unfortunately for her, fraudulently spending joint assets and getting caught disqualifies you from wiping that kind of debt. The court said she must pay, or lose any tax refund, paycheck, or asset for the next 5 years. And remember that life insurance policy she kept in my name? Yeah, I transferred it to a veteran support fund in her honor. She didn't know until they sent her the thank you letter. It's been a year now. A full rotation of seasons since Jessica sent that one-line email from my living room while Trent probably drank my whiskey in the background. Funny thing is, I don't feel hate anymore. Just peace. After the lawsuits, the arrests, the restraining order, the job loss, and the public fallout, she finally stopped trying to reach out. No more calls. No more letters. She vanished from my life like she should have the day she chose him over me. But I didn't vanish. I rebuilt. I got promoted. Bought a better house. One with mountain views and no ghosts in the walls. I adopted a dog named Ranger who sleeps with one eye open like I used to. I started volunteering with a group that helps vets get back on their feet after coming home to broken lives. And yeah, I started dating again. Slowly. Carefully. Because trust isn't something I give away anymore. Last I heard, Jessica moved 2 states over. Still working dead-end jobs. Still dodging Trent's petty revenge. Still alone. People like her? They don't heal. They just hide from the mirror. But I do hope she finds peace. Not because she deserves it, but because I do. Peace means she'll never try to come back again. To anyone who's been betrayed, don't burn yourself down to light someone else's fantasy. Let them choke on the smoke of their own lies.